Welcome to part 2. The Bush Boys get ready to head off to the Spring Festival when Magic Star and company show up. They tell the Bush Boys about Baby Lickety-Split, but they're soon interrupted by the arrival of the Smooze in quite dramatic fashion. I have to hand it to the animators for this shot, as it effectively illustrates how dangerous the Smooze is with it covering everything and tearing apart the ground. They try to make their escape, but Gussie and two Bush Boys end up getting hit by flying Smooze. I guess it's a good time to mention that Gussie is the Worf of the ponies, or perhaps the other way around is true since this came first. Anyway, Worf was a Klingon in Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Deep Space Nine, played by Michael Dorn. He was big, powerful, looked like he could take on anything the galaxy could throw at him. So, to show how serious the threat was, the first thing he would do is kick Worf's ass. This took on meme status and suddenly everything was kicking his ass. Gussie's the same way. She's a bitchy, aggressive unicorn with power over wind. She's without question the bruiser of the group, so to prove that the situation was serious, bad things would happen to her. Along with being Smooze in the movie, she was captured by the witches, captured and shaved bald by abominations of nature, teleported herself to the city of the damned off-screen, and got turned to stone over the course of the series. Anyway, Gussie and the Bush Boys are pissed off, and frankly, I can't blame them if I had to listen to shady whine.
You're just grumpy because you've been Smooze.
Of course, that is only the beginning. As it spreads, later comes madness and death. They have to get word back to the others, so after giving Shady and the new Purple Bush Boy attacks and finding Spike and Baby Lickety-Split, Magic Star, Gussie, and the other Bush Boys head back to Dream Castle. Hideo watches the Smooze cover everything and is finally happy. We also learn Rika has eating habits that make even fat bastard cringe as she wolfs down some chopped bat wings. You know, there's gross and then there's just plain disgusting, especially considering that the wings are still flapping. And then we cut back to Baby Lickety-Split and Spike still trapped in the canyon. What a shock. The Smooze comes and traps them behind the waterfall. If only I actually gave a damn about Baby Lickety-Split. I might actually care that this happened. Back at Dream Castle, the festival's still in full swing. Magic Star shows up and tells everyone to get in the castle, and they quickly evacuate. She also has Wind Whistler and North Star dump some water on Gussie and Smooze Bush Boys, but it doesn't come off. Maybe they should try some nail polish remover. Granted, it'd probably take their hair off, but it might also take care of the Smooze. We're also finally introduced to the movie's main protagonists, Wind Whistler and Fizzy. Wind Whistler is the powder blue Pegasus, and Fizzy is the turquoise unicorn. And they're only really the main protagonists because of the most proactive characters going forward. Sadly, Spike and Baby Lickety-Split are more like main characters, but they really don't do anything to advance the story except bumble around and run into people. Magic Star and Shady also get a lot of screen time, but they really don't do anything. I mean, it's basically just Wind Whistler and Fizzy, and especially Wind Whistler who's doing all the work. Anyway, Wind Whistler was and is my favorite character from the first generation. For one thing, she's actually a character. She's your brain character with a huge vocabulary of complicated words and usually solves her problems by thinking them through. However, she's also very loyal and heroic. When someone needs saving, it is often Wind Whistler who comes to the rescue. Unfortunately, they can't delve too deeply into her character in this movie because they've already wasted a half hour on farting around with Baby Lickety-Split and the witches, and we still have a lot more stuff to introduce. Also, her first spoken line unfortunately tells us that the ponies have done something completely moronic.
I know what can help us, and Megan's got it.
I'll tell you right now what Wind Whistler is referring to as a rainbow of light because that's absolutely stupid! Let me play for you what the rainbow light means to the ponies.
The rainbow of light. It looks after us and keeps us safe.
Whose stupid idea was to have Megan take the rainbow of light back to her place? It can't protect the ponies there. Anyway, that means Wind Whistler and North Star have to go and get it. They land at Megan's place and we learn that Megan has siblings as well as a newfound terrible taste in clothes. Her little sister Molly was actually another doll sold with Baby Sundance in 1986, and Danny was, well, he was there to be the token boy. Though ironically, Danny seemed most in his element in Ponyland. Megan and Molly were just there, but he tended to actually interact with the ponies on their level and play integral roles in some adventures. And I'm frankly amazed at how quickly the two just accept a couple of talking Pegasi landing in front of them. I mean, even Megan had the token talking pony reaction and rescue Midnight Castle, but they wave it away by saying Megan told them about the ponies. But I think they really missed out on comic gold with the two reacting to the situation. Instead, they begged to come along. When Whistler and North Star at first don't want to take them because it's dangerous, but they capitulate and take them all back to Dream Valley too. Though it's not like they'll serve any real purpose there. Meanwhile, we get what's hands down the best song of the movie on account of it being so inappropriate. Rika and Drago are riding to Smooze on a makeshift galleon with what looks like a giant bra for sale and gleefully singing the most upbeat and happy song in the movie about how screwed everyone is. This song was used in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series, for crying out loud. If that's not a testament to how so bad it's good this song is, I don't know what is. The Smooze overruns Dream Castle, and it should be noted not one woodland creature gets Smooze in all this. Yeah, ponies can get smoozed, bushways can get smoozed, but God forbid any of the screen clutter gets smoozed. When Whistler and company arrive too late to save Dream Castle, however they release a rainbow light anyway, and it does what it does best. Kick some ass. I mean, this thing has to be the Mr. T of rainbows. It starts tearing into the Smooze immediately, and even when the Smooze swallows it, it explodes inside and takes a crapload of Smooze down, and then simply reconstitutes itself. Everyone cheers and Danny starts taking pictures, though I doubt he could ever show them off, especially him cheering on a rainbow, even if it does kick ass. Rika and Drago, on the other hand, know that they're screwed as the Smooze doesn't have any flume, and that's probably why it lost. So they retreat out of the frying pan and probably into the fire. The rainbow light continues to kick Smooze's ass until Smooze unleashes the fist. It grabs the rainbow and drags it under, and apparently exploding and reconstructing yourself is the one used to attack, as the rainbow light can't escape this time. However, the fight ends up in a draw as the Smooze is stopped dead. Hitty, in the meantime, threatens Rika and Drago with the horrible punishment of eating ice cream if they don't tell her why the Smooze lost. I honestly have to wonder if they took the "we're evil so we hate everything that is good" thing too far. Perhaps they should have spent less time on the witches so that we wouldn't care. They eventually tell her that they forgot the flume, and she takes it pretty well.
Get the flume or bigger roll!
The ponies, in the meantime, are out one castle, one rainbow. They say they can't get through the Smooze, but I think a jackhammer and some dynamite would do the trick. However, they're not deterred. They'll rebuild with attitude to really piss off the witches. But Gusty has to be a downer on account of being Smooze, which sends Megan to her big number. It's a very good song. It's well sung, and the instrumentation behind it is very nice. But I think it's a little slow for a cheer-up song, but whatever. In the end, we get another pony Smooze, and some lands on Sweet Stuff. That's right, Sweet Stuff. Why this pony gets mocked for her name is really pathetic when you think about it. I honestly hope the people who do mock her don't turn around and defend the more hokey names of Transformers and G.I. Joe. I mean, it's her name. Just deal with it. It's important to note at this point that the ponies are ready to rebuild for what happens next. They fear that the witches will send more Smooze after them, so Megan, Fizzy, and Wind Whistler go to talk to the Moochick. Remember that. They're going to see the Moochick to ask him about stopping the Smooze as well as de-smoozing Gusty and the others. Trust me, it's going to be very important very soon. Rika and Drago, in the meantime, go to get the flume, and we see why they're so scared about it. The thing they have to get flume from looks like a triffid beat within an inch of its life with the ugly stick. It must have been one of Michael Jones' fever dreams. That's all I can think of. It looks disgusting. The way it moves is disgusting. And even the sounds it makes are disgusting. I'm still not sure if those boils on it are eyes or not. Getting the flume from this thing involves punching a hole in it and collecting the liquid that comes spewing out. Like, this thing couldn't get any more disgusting. I've heard this scene was cut out of the releases in some countries, and frankly, I can see why. Drago grabs the thing, and Rika slams the pickaxe into it so that she can bottle it.
Whatever you do, don't let go!
Never tell someone not to do something, they'll always end up doing it. Drago gets tossed, and the flume monster turns its wrath on Rika, even spanking her with a metal spoon. Ahow! However, after some antics and pain, they manage to escape with the flume. Megan and two heroines in the meantime reach the mushroom. Moochick's in the process of getting his butt whipped by Habit 3D Checkers when he hears Megan calling out for him and sees them coming. For some reason, they decide to make the Moochick a senile curmudgeon in this movie. Rescue Midnight Caster was aloof, but not like this. He immediately filled the ponies in about what was going on and knew what they needed. He just didn't know where he'd hit it at the moment. He was also very concerned with what was happening and eager to help. Here, he doesn't recognize the ponies at first and even calls Megan a weird-looking pony. You know, there's forgetful and then there's just plain stupid. He's also rather apathetic to the pony's plight at first. When they tell him that the rainbow light is gone, he tells them that there isn't another one while lounging on a mushroom and seems to take the news with almost no interest or concern. Again, why, George? Why? However, he suddenly takes interest when they say that they're homeless. It sends him into a huge musical number where he offers them various homes. I chuckled that they thought of the Hippodrome, showing that they were doing their homework with that one. However, he also offers them the pyramids and Taj Mahal, which are both tombs. This ends up with him giving them Paradise Estate, the new morbidly expensive playset that came out this year and would serve as the pony's home in the series. This is where I want to talk about advertising movies and TV shows. In my opinion, the quality of advertising is how well does it fit into the story. Basically, would the same thing make sense if they were not trying to sell something? I'll take you back to Escape from Katrina and the costume ball. Even if they weren't selling pony wear, them wearing clothes to a costume ball makes sense. Now, does the ponies getting Paradise Estate make any sense? Hell no. This was so obviously only here to sell this thing and it hurts. Let's take a look at how this movie is bent over backwards to set up this scene. 1. Hitty apparently been hating on the ponies for years, but only now thinks it's sick to smooze on them. 2. The ponies gave Megan a rainbow light to take back to her place when it's supposed to be protecting them. If they had had the rainbow light, they probably would have stopped the smooze before it reached Dream Castle. 3. The ponies were ready to rebuild. The reason they went to the Moochick was to find out how to stop the smooze and de-smooze its victims. However, this was an afterthought while Getting a New Home got its own song. 4. The Moochick creates all these huge structures, including the Palace of Versailles and the Ritz. If they want Dream Castle so badly, why don't they just have him conjure up an exact copy of Dream Castle? What's stopping him? Also, Dream Castle worked perfectly as the pony's home. It was everything they needed and the writers needed. It was big, so a lot of ponies could live in it comfortably. It was well fortified, so they could escape to it if they needed to. And it also had the trappings for fantastic parties and stuff. Now let's take a look at Paradise Estate. Most importantly, let's take a look at its size compared to a pony. Remember that there are 30 ponies. Even if all the interior space was for sleeping, it would be more crap than a barracks in there. They get around this by having it being bigger on the inside than the outside. Still, it's just a huge step down from Dream Castle as well as many things that the Moochick offered. There's no reason they would accept this except Hasbro wants to sell it. So, parents, get your checkbooks out now and get ready to pony up some mucho bucko for it. With that unabashed piece of commercialism out of the way, we finally get to the reason they came here. How can they stop the smooze? Apparently the smooze can only be stopped by the flutter ponies. Habit gives Moochick a map to where they live to give to Megan and the ponies, and he sends them on their way.
Bye-bye, bye-bye. Are you sure it's the flutter ponies? Maybe it's the singing grasshoppers. Then again, it could be the wiggleworms from beyond the water lilies.
Spike and Baby Lickety-Split in the meantime have avoided being smooth somehow, but they're now trapped underground. They come to a cave with a bunch of carved wooden pillars, however they don't take notice until the locals show up. These are Grundles. They're ugly but sweet-natured people, as their song explains. They also have a simplified syntax as they don't waste words, as they put it. The only thing worth mentioning is that Danny DeVito is the voice of the king. You might have noticed his name coming up in the credits as a starring role. That's right, he shows up about halfway through the movie and speaks a few lines of broken English, and he's considered a star. Hell, his lines are so scant they probably could have had Orson Welles do them while he was voicing Unicron, and he probably wouldn't have asked for extra payment. Actually, that probably would have been pretty cool.
I have summoned you here for a purpose.
Anyway, these 5 are the survivors of Grundleland, which is the place Hideous said got smoothed earlier. They actually have a running gag for this tragedy, believe it or not, as the Grundles burst into tears whenever someone mentions Grundleland. They open their cave to the outside world so Spike and Baby Lickety-Split can get out, however they come out to find smooze everywhere. After a short conniption, the Grundles decide to take them back home, and if this description seems jumbled, that should give you an idea what the scene was like. In a short scene, Hideous gives the smooze the flume and it reawakens to start to spread again. The ponies in the meantime are praising their new home. I guess Megan, Fizzy, and Wind Whistler neglected to mention what they passed up. However, the smooze is on the loose again, so Wind Whistler and Fizzy head to Flutter Valley, with the humans and Magic Star tagging along. Hideous sees us in her viewing pool and is not happy. She tells Rika and Drago to go get Og. We then randomly see what Shady and the new Purple Bushwoolly are up to. They're still looking for Spike and Baby Lickety-Split, but they aren't having much luck as they've been underground until recently. Because we haven't had enough screen whiplash yet, we then go to Rika and Drago delivering a disgusting pile of slop to Og. Credit where credit is due, this scene works as we never see Og, we just hear him groaning and a limb grabbing the slop. It sets the stage for when we finally see him. Then we go back to Shady and the Bush Willie, and they're crying because they suck. However, we do get the best dialogue of the whole movie.
I guess I'm a failure.
A failure. Yeah, you failed. Oh, yeah.
They then have to run as more smooze is coming. This is where I'll leave it off for part 2. Check out part 3 where Wind Whistle and company search for the flutter ponies. Will the conclusion to this movie make up for the first 2/3? We'll see, but I'm not holding out much hope.